Okay, so I just want to say something about our sponsor, Edney and Edney, Optometrists and Opticians. Not only do they provide exceptional eyewear enabling you perfect vision, but they also pride themselves on giving you the best service on your journey as their client. Their curated eyewear collection feature unique, handmade and luxury pieces from artists and craftsmen across the globe. They are a truly independent business and have no constraints over the products they stock, so if there is something in particular that you're looking for, they will endeavour to deliver. They have an unparalleled selection of world-class eyewear in Tunbridge Wells, including rare limited edition frames and sunglasses. The team are on hand to guide you through their exceptional selection, ensuring you find the perfect look, fit and vision. Check out edneyandedney.com. And now we'll jump back into the podcast. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to A Brilliant Businesses podcast. My name is Nick Bryant, and I'm very pleased this morning to be joined by Victoria Aldwinkle from the Kent Wine School. Good morning.
Morning, Nick. Thank you very much for having me.
It's a pleasure. How are you?
Very good this morning. Thank you.
Good. Thank you for coming in. So, Kent Wine School, they run wine tasting and wine courses. They are the leading provider of wine courses in Kent for people that want to be wine qualified, which I must say sounds very delightful. And they've been helping people learn about wine in Tunbridge Wells since 2012. But let's go back, Victoria, and a bit about your background, why you're doing it, what it's all about, Kent Wine School.
Yeah, so I used to have a corporate events background in the City of London and dealt with wine, but wine lists for me were a bit of a kind of confusion of words, language and dialogue I just didn't understand.
Yeah.
And I felt quite inadequate about that. And I really like, if you're buying food and wine or talking about it, I really like knowing what you're talking about. So I took myself off on the Wine and Spirits Education Trust programme, which we now run in Kent. But it's a series of courses. I started off with the level 2, which is pretty basic. You don't need any qualifications other than enjoyment of wine. Yeah. And I loved it. Whenever I was at university, I was never a kind of vocational person. I loved geology, I loved biology, I loved English, I loved culture, I love travel. Yes. And for me, the world of wine kind of encapsulates all of that. It's so multifaceted. And you learn everything on the level 2 course, from how vines actually function and photosynthesis, to how you make wine, what chemical components are going on, what's the biological process that's happening, through to labelling and marketing. What's your market forces that are driving that wine? And I found that whole kind of such a broad remit of knowledge fascinating. Yes. So I went off and did all of my courses up to the WSET diploma. And then, as luck would happen, my husband and I got a contract to go and move to the States. So I moved out to Seattle in Washington. Okay. Not an ideal winemaking place, but it turns out it is a hub of winemaking, quite boutique wineries out there. So started making wine. Started as what's called a cellar rat in the States, and then moved up to assistant winemaker and winemaker. And then we moved back to the UK, where I moved into wine consultancy, education and wine judging as well, occasionally. Right. So
it's interesting you're saying about getting a little bit bamboozled by menus, because I think that happens to a lot of people, and I do it when you're in a restaurant. You try and be a bit flash and you go, yeah, I know what that is, but really you don't, or I don't. So that must be quite a nice part of it, knowing what you're looking at and how to help people. It's lovely. And the thing I find most satisfying about it from a personal point of view, but also seeing this from my students, is that you make your money now work better for you. The standard remit in a restaurant is that customers will always choose wine number 2 on the list. Wine number 1, they know, the customer knows, is the cheapest, so they don't want to look too cheap. Everything else a bit further down is getting very fancy. Wine number 2 is the one the customer will always choose, but it is the one also the restaurant will mark up the most. So I want, when I'm going out, to make my money work well for me, I want to choose a good bottle of wine. It's probably not going to be the priciest at all, because I've still got a budget. But I want to know that what I'm getting is good value for money and good quality wine. And a little bit of knowledge, not a lot of knowledge, a little bit will give you that information, just to work out which are the good regions to look for, which are the under the radar regions where the price drops down because they're not so well known. All of those are really great tips and tricks to make your money work smarter, but also so you can drink better for less, if you see what I mean. And all that sort of stuff is what happens on your wine courses. Absolutely. It's all about getting rid of the jargon, the misleading
pomp and circumstance, I would say, about wine, and getting through all of that, understanding what's actually going on behind the label, who's making the wine, what's their story.
Yeah.
Often we forget that behind the wine label is a farmer who is just trying to grow a crop. And in climate change, or climate chaos as we like to call it, that's becoming increasingly hard. So understanding that small story of a farmer just trying to get grapes from a vineyard, often to a cooperative who will make the wine for them. There's a lot going on behind the label that gives you the price point and the quality you're looking at.
Yeah.
And I think the wine world, for me, one of the things I'm really big on is getting away from the snobbishness about wine.
Right.
You know, oh, it's Chateau X and X, it's this, that and the other. It is agriculture at the end of the day. And you pay an awful lot of money for 75 centilitres of liquid. So I really want students to be massively informed about what they're drinking and what they're paying for, but in a great way. We don't want it to be boring. It's not a lecture.
No.
But it is just, you know, provenance. What are you actually getting?
Yeah, I think people that come to your courses obviously must just have a real strong interest in it anyway. So I don't think they're going to be bored.
Well, they're kind of, I very rarely get somebody who says, no, I don't like wine.
Yeah.
So it's, you know, the target is that I've got an audience sitting there waiting.
Yeah. And just going back to the courses, now you run them in Tunbridge Wells?
Yeah, so most of our courses are run in Tunbridge Wells in a variety of venues. We're Kent Wine School though, so we can operate anywhere in Kent.
Okay, yeah.
We can move around. We frequently go into offices to run corporate events, team buildings, networking events. So we'll come to you if you want a wine tasting at home. We do 60th birthday parties at home, where people just want something a little bit different.
Yeah.
Hen nights occasionally, lots and lots of different things.
Okay, and you don't sell wine, do you?
No.
Okay.
No. We're really strict about that. We're part of a franchise, and part of that agreement is we will never sell wine.
Okay.
So if you were to go to any wine retailer and say to them, could you organise a tasting? They will be very knowledgeable and they'll be great at doing that. But their primary objective is to sell you the wine that you're tasting.
Yeah.
We in our courses will show you a range of wines we've selected, ideally if we can, from local Kent retail shops and local Kent businesses, because we obviously like to support the local area. But we just want you to learn about wine. And if you happen not to like the wine we've shown you, because it's very subjective, isn't it? I mean, just because I like it does not mean you're going to love it. If you happen to not like the wine, great. It's just we've learned what you don't like. And actually, that's really important. So we never have this push to make you like the wine. It's just learn what your palate enjoys, learn what really appeals to your taste buds and your sensibilities, because we're all very different. And then you can buy wine better in the future that's more suited to your taste.
Yeah, but you must get it where you're doing wine tasting and wine courses and the wine is there and someone goes, I actually really, really like this. I need to buy a crate of this or buy 6 or 12 bottles.
We do frequently,
Yeah.
That's great.
And then you've got, then you work with vineyards and you work with local suppliers, like you say.
It's really important. The UK wine scene is massively growing at the moment, and we're trying to sell a high-end product across the UK. It's not a cheap bottle of wine to buy. But what's really important for wineries, I think, and actually anyone involved in selling wine, is your staff are as equally knowledgeable and high quality as the product is. You can't go and sell a £40 bottle of Chardonnay and the person selling it goes, oh, I don't really know what the difference is between this and a Chardonnay and Burgundy. So investment in staff, if you're in a winery, is key. And we represent a lot of the wineries throughout the UK, or throughout the Southeast, to get their staff really knowledgeable so that they can answer those difficult questions. What is climate change doing to the UK wine scene? How is this Chardonnay different from a classic Burgundy? What's going on in the soil? Why are the two different? They can answer these really tricky questions.
Yeah,
and then the customer who's spending a huge amount of money on the wine feels really reassured. They think, wow, this is great.
Yeah.
I've learned so much and I'm getting a great product.
And they could ask them sounds like they could ask them any question and they know the answer.
That's what we want students to do, to be able to field any tricky question. Because in the wine world, there's always an expert who has a tricky question.
Yes.
And we really want our students to be able to come away going, you know what, I can answer all this. I know it.
Yeah. So what are the different levels of courses that you do?
So it sort of depends which route you want to go down. If you want a more professional certificated experience, maybe career change, that's happening a lot in Kent at the moment. We see a lot of people moving career midlife over to the wine industry. Then the Wine and Spirits Education Trust courses are the best ones to go on. We take you through level 1, level 2 and level 3.
Right.
If you want more of a casual experience, but you still want to get involved in a course, We do our own in-house courses where you come along for informal evenings on a selected topic, so 3, 4, or even 6 weeks, and we take you through the world of wine, or maybe classic European wines.
Okay.
So you're still getting that course experience, you're building up, you're working alongside a whole group of people who love wine as much as you do, but it's not the sort of stress of a professional certificated education.
Okay.
And then lastly, we just do one-off evenings. Just come along and have a cheese and wine pairing, have a lot of fun, learn about food and wine, taste great local produce, and it's 2 hours and you've had a wonderful social experience.
Very nice. And you bring cheese in and stuff like that.
We use the cheese shop in Tunbridge Wells, up on St John's Road.
St John's, yeah.
Really, really good.
Oh, that's good, because they're quite new there.
They're new, the only reason I say you have to be careful, the cheeses are so perfect when you buy them that they actually don't last very long, because you know when you get that runny brie that's just oozing. Jonathan, who owns it, just gets them spot on every time.
Oh,
really
I must
good.
go in there. Yeah, I must go in. I've often walked past it and thought, I wonder what it's like in there, but I must go and buy.
Really good.
Yeah. So if someone goes on the course to educate themselves, can they get employment off the back of that?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Right. Okay. What sort of jobs then?
It's wide ranging. So you can go down the education route. With social media now, you can go down the communication route. If you're very savvy with social media and things like that, there's a lot of wine forums online. Through Instagram and other social media platforms where you can educate people. TikTok, kind of learn about wine in 30 seconds. So if you're very internet, social media savvy, you can go down that communication route. There's an awful lot of point of sales positions, so either face-to-face sales in wineries or wholesales. That's a big area. It's increasing. Wineries are increasingly needing staff to do tours, to do tastings, to run their cellar door, which is their point of their sale to the customer face to face. There's lots of opportunities. Wine auctioning is a big thing in London. A lot of wine is bought still as an investment piece. So there's so much you can go into. The WSET, the Wine and Spirits Education Trust, is generally the best platform to go into, even if you're looking to go down the vineyard route or the sales route. It will take you both ways. Whereas becoming a sommelier, which is the other kind of avenue you can do, which we don't do, is more just for hospitality, as in you want to serve wine to a customer, so you need a lot of food and wine knowledge.
Right, okay. Yeah, that's a whole new thing, isn't it?
It's a different...
And is it just you? Who's in your team?
No, so I've got a wonderful business partner, Johnny Gibson.
Right.
He also runs Sussex Wine School. We are part of a franchise across the UK. Okay. So he owns Sussex Wine School as well. We've worked together since 2012, and it's a great partnership. I do most of the tutoring in Tunbridge Wells. He spends most of his time tutoring down in Sussex, but it's like all good collaborations. You know, each one brings a different skill set, and it kind of moulds together.
What do you like about it the most? What's the best part of it?
Meeting people.
Meeting people.
I love meeting people, but more importantly, I love the fact that you can spend 2 hours with them, and they come away thinking, God, I think I've just crammed 6-8 hours of great knowledge in 2 hours, but I haven't felt like I've just been talked at for 2 hours. I love the fact that people take away snippets of information that become really useful to, in terms of buying wine. Our little tips and tricks, how to get much better quality wine for less, which is what we're all about. Drinking in moderation has become a real big thing at the moment. The drinks trend for low and no alcohol is huge, so we're very aware of that. But our motto is buy better, but drink maybe less of it. So make your money work a bit better for you with your knowledge, but maybe have a couple of nights when you're not drinking.
Very good. I did. I went on a wine evening once, a wine pairing evening, and they had a quiz. I think some people do quizzes with that. And one of the questions was, where is the most expensive bottle of wine kept? And I think no one got it right, but apparently it was on the Titanic. That's where it is right now.
Yes,
that right down.
We often love putting in snippets of what I call pub quiz information. Like, where is the highest vineyard in the world? Right. That always. Have you got any idea, Nick?
I have no idea.
Tibet, Van de Tibet.
Is it? Well, of course it is. Yes.
So all of these things are just.
It adds a little bit of colour to it.
But it adds a bit of colour in terms of just bringing that levity, that lightheartedness. And then we also give them really great useful information, like, what is the difference between a Chablis and a Petit Chablis? It's actually quite important to know if you like that style of wine.
Right, okay. So I'm intrigued. Do you talk about beers and spirits as well? It's just wine, champagne? No,
so I'm a trained spirits educator as well. Right. So I can do, I I can teach you all about how to drink spirits better.
Okay. Yeah.
So we do, particularly rum and gin are our two big things.
Right.
Whiskey I adore, but it's a difficult event to do, so we do that about once a year,
Okay.
usually around Christmas time. I always wish people drank more whiskey. I think it's an incredibly evocative drink.
Count me in.
But that's more of a tricky one. Rum is hugely popular.
Why is it a tricky one then? Because
It's a very distinctive taste.
Right.
It doesn't have the sweetness of rum, which a lot of people like.
Yeah.
Whiskey can have a real savoury, peaty earthiness to it, and for a lot of palates, it's just a bit too aggressive.
Right. Yeah. Okay.
Whereas rum, it still has the alcohol level and it still has spice notes to it, but because it has sugar left behind in the process, it's just got a softer, more gentle palate to it. So it's a bit easier for most people to drink.
Yeah.
Gin obviously has been hugely popular for a while.
Yeah.
Beer, we're umming and ahhing about it. I'll
Okay.
be very honest and say it's not a drink I yet know very much about, so I couldn't educate on it.
Yeah.
There is a growing demand for it though. Craft beers are hugely popular.
Yeah,
so
these-
who knows, a couple of years' time maybe we'll go down that route.
Yeah, these little pop-up breweries are coming up all over the place,
really
aren't
popular.
they?
Yeah, really
yeah.
popular.
What does where do you want to take the business? I mean, you've been going for like 12 years now. So is there growth, or you just continue doing the courses that you do?
Yeah, so we purposefully, we are a small business. We try and keep each class size relatively small, kind of around 14 to 20 people, because I never want it to feel like it's kind of crowd control lecture situation.
Yeah.
I want people to feel like we can have a good conversation that's two-way. They can ask questions, I can answer them, we can have a good dialogue.
Nice.
So our events are always quite small. That said, we want to increase our corporate offering. Wine is a great way to team build, unsurprisingly,
absolutely.
to network.
Yeah.
You can have quizzes, you can have walk-around networking events, you can have team-building exercises, all trying to compete against each other.
Yeah.
So I'd love to do more of that.
Okay.
We don't have a huge presence either out in East Kent at the moment, so Canterbury direction, so that's an area we're looking at seeing what we can do out there.
Yeah. Okay.
But other than that, just more diverse events. Think of more intriguing, interesting experiences. We did a fantastic Greek food and wine tasting the other night.
Okay.
Brilliant, really good fun.
Yeah.
Greek wines are on a massive rise at the moment.
Plate smashing, or
They didn't quite do that. It wasn't that far. I love people finding out about wine that they wouldn't normally go to.
Greek wine, they wouldn't be a go-to in a restaurant or in a supermarket or whatever. Yeah.
It's had a real bad reputation for a long time, post World War II and in the 60s and 70s. The quality of Greek wine you get now is outstanding, but most people still associate it with being slightly questionable retina. And it's just come such a long way. But it's so underrated and therefore underpriced.
Yeah, good.
So you get a really interesting wine, often from small producers. My big thing is avoid the big brands if you can.
Right.
Avoid massive wine labels.
Yeah.
Not for any particular reason in terms of they're awful. They're not at all. They're a big company, very well run. But you don't get that provenance that you get if you go to a small business. If you go to a small winery, you're getting a real sense of provenance. They have a real investment in sustainable agriculture as well, looking after it for the next generation. They're often businesses that are handed down from father to son or daughter these days. So you often get much more provenance, much more care going into that bottle of wine. And then, a bit like food, if you're getting Romney Marsh lamb, for example, it tastes really different from one lamb from anywhere. It's the same with wine. If you get a wine that is from one local area, those grapes have the French use the word terroir. They have this real local taste that is unique to that particular soil and microclimate.
Yeah,
you can't replicate that elsewhere. So you will end up paying a couple of quid more, but you're going to get a vastly better bottle of wine than if you go to a bulk wine producer who's just got in a whole load of grapes from anywhere and made some wine. So
yeah, it's fascinating. It is like supporting local business, isn't it?
It's exactly like that. And we see this with food a lot. People are really concerned these days about provenance of food. Understandably, people want happy chickens, happy pigs, fresh eggs. That kind of desire is moving, but slowly, into wine.
Right.
And obviously animal welfare isn't necessarily involved in wine, but actually environmental impact, carbon footprint is a massive issue in the wine industry. It's a big problem. Getting bottles of wine transported halfway around the world is a big issue. So actually go for a small producer who's really trying everything they can to be carbon neutral, to be highly sustainable, to get that vineyard to last holistically, healthily and well for many, many years to come, rather than just a bulk produced product.
Yeah, that's a great ethos. Yeah, I like that. Thanks, Victoria. That's been fascinating.
Sorry, my pleasure. Thanks for
listening to
asking me,
you, and I find it really fascinating. So, if anyone wants to get involved with wine in any way, shape, or form, by the sounds of things, then please get in touch.
Absolutely, come and find us. Kent Wine School. We're easy to Google. Come and find us. Come and join us. Come and have fun. Yeah. We get so many groups of people who forge new friendships through us. It's just wonderful. They do. Yeah. If you sit and do a course with us for 3 weeks, over that period of time, you forge such a great connection with the other people in the room. Yeah. Your common interest is a love of wine. Yeah. Normally, if you love wine, you also love culture, food, travel. Yeah. Kent, because we're here, and they have such good friendship groups now. Yeah. And then they all meet up and say, right, let's go and book onto this event and go back and have a reunion and come back to us.
Great camaraderie.
It's wonderful seeing that community develop around wine. It's brilliant.
And also corporate as well. Let's shout out to the corporate people to get involved, just like say team building stuff.
Absolutely. Wine is a great icebreaker. If you've got new members to your team, if you are trying to get teams to collaborate better together, if you're trying to get a group of people to network, wine knowledge whilst having a glass of wine is a great way of doing it. Isn't because they learn something. The wine just gets the social situation moving, and they come away having a great time. Yeah, that's what it's all about, having a great time. Yeah. Excellent. Thanks, Victoria. Thanks for coming in. My pleasure, Nick. Thank you.
And we'll see you all for another podcast soon. Thank you.